Chapter 284, Defeat, Rank 96 Priest Brothers, TL by Bagelson. The Havendale Imperial soldiers hesitating on whether to retreat had no choice but to advance once again as they heard the sound of the war drums. Military orders are like the mountains, and martial law has no mercy on cold feet. They had no other choice. Only the Spirit Masters had a special position, and while Shui Ben gave orders, they only listened to Grandmaster's dispatch, and so swiftly retreated from the gates. The defenders inside Deling Pass weren't easy to deal with to begin with, and although the Buddha Fury Tang Lotus and the Tang Army's 3 volleys had caused disastrous losses for the Angel and Sacred Dragon legions, the majority of the casualties were low-level Spirit Masters. The true core remained unswayed. Besides the Spirit Masters fighting up on the walls, there was still close to 10,000 Spirit Masters remaining. The appearance of the 3 great priests not only gave them a chance to catch their breath, but it also enormously boosted their morale. Spirit Masters were after all of higher quality than soldiers, especially the Spirit Empire's long-formed Spirit Master legions. After quickly regrouping, they immediately countered under the command of the 3 priests, meeting the Havendale Empire's soldiers charging into the walls. Up on the walls, Tang San first calmed when he heard the order Grandmaster shouted. Those priests had only just reached Deling Pass and still hadn't caught their footing. They'd still need some time if they were to launch a counterattack. If they could promptly withdraw from Deling Pass, with the support of millions of men outside the walls, he believed they wouldn't dare charge. But before he could relax, the drums outside the walls were already echoing. Shui Beng, you idiot! Tang San helplessly shouted inwardly, almost getting hit by a coiling dragon staff. In a blur, he quickly withdrew a few steps. He couldn't find anything else right now. The 2 picked Douluo in front of him were too urgent. Of the 2 Spirit Empire priests with the coiling dragon staves, one was titled 15-ton Douluo, one was titled Falling Devil Douluo. As a pair of brothers, they were ranked last among the Spirit Empire's 7 great priests, separately being the 6th and 7th priests. But this didn't mean they were the weakest. Alone they might not be so strong, being only ranked 96 titled Douluo. But if the 2 were together, even Chen Dailiu wouldn't easily defeat them. Both 15-ton Douluo and Falling Devil Douluo were in their 120s. Brothers of one heart, are sharp enough to cut metal. 2 ranked 96 titled Douluo joined hands, plus having worked together for more than 100 years, their cooperation was at a level where they didn't even have to communicate. 2 coiling dragon staves flipped down and flew up, forcing Tang San to retreat step by step without even using spirit abilities, also giving him very few chances to release his spirit abilities. The sea god trident blocked below and caught above, not giving time for anything else. Suddenly, Falling Devil Douluo's coiling dragon staff spun like a pinwheel in his hands, the golden dragon coiling around it issuing a dragon cry as if alive and issuing an enormous golden ring of light, shooting straight for Tang San. And 15-ton Douluo now leapt up from behind Falling Devil Douluo, his coiling dragon staff falling straight down without any flourishes. Their 2 spirit rings brightened, one above and one below. The 2 cooperated perfectly, that terrifying spirit power even more falling from the sky like a wind sweeping aside dried grass and leaves. If he was hit straight on by them, even Tang San's body might not be strong enough to take it. Tang San was already forced back step by step by these 2 titled Douluo, so much that he didn't even have time to gasp for breath. The 2 titled Douluo then suddenly changed their style of attack, at the same time releasing powerful spirit abilities. Although it gave him a brief space to breathe, dealing with the change was extremely difficult. After all, he wasn't at his best condition right now. Tang San was still Tang San. He'd once defeated the joint 5 clear Sky School elders, confronting equally powerful people cooperating. His greatest tool for controlling the outcome of battle was to always maintain a calm insight. The time to store strength was very brief, but don't forget that Tang San now already had 5 spirit bones, and the time required to release their abilities was much shorter than spirit abilities. There was no chance for Tang San to withdraw. He could only choose to block. If he used control type spirit abilities, then the enemy attacks would hit him at the same time, and what use was it even if he restrained the opponents? A dull sound of thunder echoed from Tang San. That didn't come from his mouth, but rather an explosion generated by spirit power suddenly boiling all over his body. The milky white spirit power of the mysterious heaven skill was transformed by the blue silver emperor, turning blue. Immediately, different colors blossomed from his 2 arms. The sleeves on both arms exploded at the same time. His left arm was enveloped by yellow light. His right arm had turned into an almost transparent blue. Behind him, the enormous images of a giant ape and a bull python quietly appeared. These were the appearances of Titan giant ape Ming and sky blue bull python Ming. Next, his arms exploded with an intense red light, fusing together the originally separate lights on his 2 arms. The sea god trident in his right hand pointed forward towards the 15-ton Douluo in the air, his left hand making a fist and suddenly striking forward. At this moment, he actually chose to simultaneously block 2 spirit abilities. In terms of spirit power, Tang San was clearly weaker than any one of these 2. If rank 96 titled Douluo had twice as much spirit power as a rank 95 titled Douluo, then what about Tang San at rank 93? And he still faced 2 rank 96 titled Douluo alone. His choice to meet them head on like this seemed no different from suicide. But in fact, the gap between Tang San and these 2 wasn't as enormous as their ranks indicated. Indeed, he was inferior to the 2 of them in spirit power, but this wasn't the extreme gap between ordinary rank 93 and 96 spirit masters. Absolutely don't forget that Tang San possessed 6 spirit bones, plus 3 more spirit rings than these 2. These spirit rings and spirit bones were enormous improvements for him. Even though his spirit power was only rank 93 in total, his spirit power was a lot more condensed than ordinary titled Douluo. In other words, his spirit power was even more solid at the same volume. This was also why he could contend with Dong as a rank 99 titled Douluo, and the reason he could originally defeat the Clear Sky School's 5 great titled Douluo elders. The surface spirit power level hid even more puzzling effects, even more when, with the spirit rings or spirit bones, the greatest advantage of 100,000-year abilities wasn't the increased strength, but rather the reduced requirements of the spirit master's spirit power. At the 100,000-year level, more spirit rings didn't mean they could launch stronger attacks, but rather to show the most formidable attack power possible for less spirit power, and spirit bones showed this even more clearly. Xiaolu absolutely wasn't particularly powerful as a 100,000-year spirit beast, but the 2 spirit bone abilities she gave Tang San, teleportation, and invincible golden body, barely consumed any of Tang San's spirit power, even if those were support and defense type abilities. This showed the strength of 100,000-year spirit abilities. Consequently, right now Tang San seemed like he was throwing his life away, but in fact, he really had the strength. He would rely on his 100,000-year spirit abilities to make up for the present disadvantage. Along with the spirit abilities blossoming, Tang San's arms showed bizarre changes. His left arm abruptly extended, growing fully 3 times as long, bulging with muscle, veins coiling around his arm like little dragons, terrifying yellow and the red symbolizing the level twisting together and suddenly erupting, a half-circle red and yellow shockwave blasting out, and through his other arm, it was already covered in a layer of cyan scale armor, just like the scales Deming had. Explosive cracks constantly echoed from his bones, bringing to mind the roars of dragons. Intense cyan light instantly washed over the entire sea god trident, a ray of cyan thunder light instantly exploding in the shape of a dragon. It was this ability he had relied on to instantly kill the sacred dragon legion commander. What Tang San used for his Titan giant ape left arm bone spirit ability Titan firmament breaker, as well as the sky blue bull python right arm bone spirit ability sky blue fading thunderclap. He faced the falling devil Douluo's falling devil coiling dragon ring as well as 15-ton Douluo's 15-ton toss. 2 spirit abilities facing 2 spirit bone abilities, or 2 10,000-year spirit abilities facing 200,000-year abilities. What Tang San had was an advantage in spirit ability levels, at the same time using the launch speed of spirit bone abilities to make up for his previous teetering disadvantage. And 15-ton and falling devil Douluo relied on their profound spirit power depths. As the one who could directly see everything of this, Grandmaster also couldn't be sure if who would hold the advantage in this confrontation, but he could be certain that it would be very difficult for Tang San who was already largely spent to get a favorable outcome. But equally, it was impossible for the opponents to deal with Tang San in one attack. Riot, crack, 2 strange sounds reverberated in midair at the same time. 15-ton Douluo's enormous coiling dragon staff falling from above had already collided with the sky blue fading thunderclap. Within that strange sound, 15-ton Douluo's entire body was covered in a layer of fine cyan lightning bolts, falling backwards as he trembled violently. The sky blue fading thunderclap was the certain skill originally launched from sky blue bull python Deming's horn, turned into a spirit bone ability for Tang San's use. Of all Tang San's abilities, its attack power might be second only to his all-in-one sea god trident throw. It was especially frightening with its instant release. Along with the sea god trident's amplified condensing, its attack power had reached an extremely frightening level, absolutely not inferior to BD Dong's jade cut. That's how the scene where it instantly killed a title Douluo came about. Against its sudden eruption, even a rank 96 power like 15-ton Douluo lost. Only, he was still rather lucky. After all, right now Tang San was facing two opponents. If it had been him alone, then Tang San's sky blue fading thunderclap would very likely have been infused with sea god's light, adding a mental power shock. It would very possibly have seriously injured him in a single attack. On the other side, the Titan Firmament Breaker also clashed with falling Devil Douluo's ring of light. The enormous roving dragon light ring met the semicircular wave of red and yellow interwoven light. The instantly releasing attack power charged straight at the clouds. With an enormous explosion, falling Devil Douluo retreated 7 steps before catching his balance, his arms holding the coiling dragon staff already paralyzed. In terms of strength, the Titan Giant Ape was absolutely among the top of spirit beasts. This Titan Firmament Breaker won in strength, but also included some unstable gravity waves that could weaken the enemy's attack. It was a truly powerful 100,000-year attack type ability. With a spattering sound, Tang San faced the sky and vomited out a mouthful of blood, but he didn't retreat an inch, and didn't even use this time when the opponents were beaten back to rest, brazenly taking a step forward. His 8th red spirit ring suddenly flared, one red ring of light simultaneously shooting out towards those two title Douluo. 15-ton and falling Devil Douluo changed expressions for the first time since they appeared. From a distance they had seen BD Dong being beaten back before, and still somewhat disapproved of her almost dying to the hands of this youth. Ordinarily they would always be cultivating or living as they wished, so they didn't have any deep understanding of BD Dong. They just looked at that BD Dong wasn't strong enough. They believed it was already careful enough with the two of them facing Tang San. Even more importantly was because Tang San had that sea god trident. In the previous attack they really had forced Tang San to retreat step by step. Even though this youth being able to reach title Douluo at his age was enough to shock them, it seemed to them that he would still be destroyed by their hand today. But they had never imagined that Tang San could actually instantly erupt with two so formidable spirit abilities to beat them back simultaneously while one against two. Especially 15-ton Douluo in the air felt bursts of numbness all over his body from the sky blue fading thunderclaps effect. The energy and blood within him boiled. He was actually already injured. Even though Tang San spit blood, he actually didn't recuperate after such a violent clash, even launching spirit abilities. Just this point or the two coiling dragon staff title Douluo. Only, they were still both peak Douluo with extremely rich battle experience. The two simultaneously raised their coiling dragon staves. Even though they couldn't use any powerful spirit abilities with their energy and blood surging, they still instantly connected their spirit power and the spirits they held into one whole, maintaining a stable defense. Even if Tang San's attack hit them, they could still rely on this defensive posture and all their spirit power to stand against Tang San. But the two title Douluo very quickly became aware of something being wrong, because they discovered that their perception of their surroundings suddenly showed a brief pause. Everything seemed to have become illusory. Tang San didn't change anything and kept using his 8th spirit ability. This was the evil spirit Augur King's blue silver Augur Devil's absorption, enforcing a 3-second stun, immune to any defensive abilities. He had finally found this chance as the two peaked Douluo retreated, and at the same time, he instantly threw out the sea god trident in his right hand, aimed at 15 Douluo who still had yet to hit the ground. His right arm also grabbed forward in the shape of a claw, and along with the dragon roar, it turned into a giant dragon claw that grabs towards falling Devil Douluo. This was the Sky Blue Ball Python right arm Spirit Bone's other ability, Sky Blue Slowing God Claw. At the moment he was being forced back step by step by his opponents, seemingly on the verge of defeat, Tang San erupted with his most potent strength, using formidable 100,000-year spirit abilities in succession, unexpectedly reversing the situation in an instant and launching his own counterattack. The first victim was 15-ton Douluo, even though he held the coiling dragon staff crosswise in front of him, taking a stance that could resist any attack. What he faced was still the 108,000 Jin heavy sea god trident. With a loud explosive sound, the sea god trident struck the coiling dragon staff, and without any suspense, 15-ton Douluo was blasted off the top of the gelling past walls, blood madly spurting from his mouth. Even though it wouldn't seriously harm him, it would at least take some time before he could get back up. This was still when Tang San's condition was bad. If it was in his peak condition, then he just needed to use the golden 13 halberds one goes without return attack, and there would be no chance for 15-ton Douluo to escape. On the other side, the Sky Blue Slowing God Claw on top of the blue silver Augur Devil's absorption had an equally astonishing effect. Indeed, the Sky Blue Slowing God Claw had to charge up for 4 seconds, but Tang San's attack had already started saving up strength when he launched the Sky Blue Fading Thunderclap before, joining them together inseparably close. The claw shape had already appeared as he threw the sea god trident, forcibly saving 1 second. At the same time as that falling devil could just move, that enormous Slowing God Claw was already upon him, grabbing him without any suspense. Being caught by the Sky Blue Slowing God Claw, all senses slowed by 10 times, practically no different from being dead. If not for the 4-second charge time, just this ability would be enough for Tang San to sweep away title Douluo level powers. Now that falling Devil Douluo was caught, he felt all of his surroundings slow down, and whether it was activating his spirit power or moving, it all became incomparably delayed. He swayed, almost falling to the ground. Tang San didn't keep launching attacks, using the 100,000-year Sky Blue Fading Thunderclap, Titan Firmament Breaker, Blue Silver Augur Devil's absorption as well as the Sky Blue Slowing God Claw in succession. Even if these spirit abilities didn't draw more than he could take, it was still quite frightening, even more so when the injuries he had suffered in the previous collision absolutely went light. They were just forcefully suppressed by his incredibly powerful constitution. Now that he had flung away 15-ton Douluo and slowed falling Devil Douluo, he finally had a chance to catch his breath. With a vomiting sound, he once again spit up a mouthful of blood, breathing in ragged gasps. He raised his right hand, using controlling crane catching dragon to pull back the sea god trident. The large polearm stabbed out, straight towards falling Devil Douluo's chest. Falling Devil Douluo after all still had his defenses raised, and to kill him naturally required the power of the sea god trident. 10 seconds was enough to kill him several times over. The sudden change in circumstances on Tang San's side had immediately roused all the Heaven Door Empire powers on the walls. Dai Mubai and Zhu King finally used their spirit fusion ability Hell White Tiger, and Grandmaster with Flender and Lu Erlong released the Golden Sacred Dragon, attacking with all their strength and forcing the enemies back in retreat. A lot of people had already fallen off the walls. Those Spirit Empire title Douluo were also all injured. Retreat! Retreat! Tang San shouted at the same time as he stabbed at falling Devil Douluo. Now wasn't the time to stay here. Even if they temporarily held the advantage on the walls, he didn't have much fighting strength left, and there were still another 5 peak level title Douluo opponents. The situation below the walls was already quite terrible, but if they retreated now they could still maintain their strength. Those injured title Douluo weren't so easily killed either, but he could kill this falling Devil Douluo was already quite a bounty. With an explosive sound, the sea god trident relied on its weight to strike aside falling Devil Douluo's defensive coiling dragon staff with its first strike. The enormous polearm shook, and struck once again. If the sword-like main blade directly hit falling Devil Douluo, even if his spirit power was another level deeper, it would still be difficult to survive. But at this moment, a sudden shout came. You dare! A strong gale blew towards him, blasting Tang San from the side. Sharp energy fluctuations made Tang San's hair stand up. That was an attack enough to threaten his life. In danger, Tang San couldn't pay any attention to killing falling Devil Douluo. Turning around, he suddenly poured sea god's light into the trident, a golden ring of light appearing in front of him. But, shockingly, the unfixed storm's ring of light collapsed in practically an instant. His body also flung back by that enormous impact. Once again vomiting blood, he now became aware of just how far his condition had fallen. His spirit power and mental strength were already at less than 30%. An equally golden-robed and silver-embroidered old man had arrived on the walls. It was the priest who had previously removed BD Dong and Hulina. His eyes shone with pure light, his entire body covered with a layer of fine golden scales. That previous attack came from his hand transformed into a claw. Behind him also hung a giant tail covered with scales and spines. This was the golden crocodile king spirit, one of the peak spirits. Especially the spirit power this priest emanated made Tang San even more shocked. 15-ton Douluo and falling Devil Douluo were powerful enough, but this old man's appearance actually made Tang San feel as if he faced BD Dong. By conservative estimates, this golden crocodile king Douluo's spirit power had already reached at least rank 98. Tang San's estimate was correct. This spirit empire priest before him was second only to Chen Douluo in Elder Palace. Ranked second, golden crocodile Douluo. He was already more than 150 years old, older even than Chen Douluo. His strength had also reached a Terrifying rank 98. His power actually wasn't inferior to Bibi Dong, who was always unable to use her full strength. His appearance on the walls had once again reversed the situation that Tang San laboriously turned around. Golden Crocodile Douluo gave a cold snort, his left foot suddenly stepping forward, spinning around, the large tail behind him swept out, leaving a series of golden shadows as it struck straight for Tang San, and at the same time, both his hands pushed behind him, intense golden light suddenly erupting, like a wall blocking the golden sacred dragon that wanted to come help. This time Tang San felt exhausted by his limited abilities. The Spirit Empire really was too deep. They actually had so many powers. Facing Golden Crocodile Douluo's attack, he could only manage to raise his sea god trident, doing his best to pour in sea god's light to block. He was instantly knocked flying, heavily landing on his back on the walls, smashing a large area of the battlements. Tang San's vision darkened, blood splattering. Yi. Golden Crocodile Douluo was a bit surprised as he saw that his attack couldn't kill Tang San. Tang San was clearly a spent arrow, but he could actually still block his attack in this kind of condition. This young man's talents really were too astonishing. No wonder Bibi Dong, 15-ton and fallen devil Douluo were all beaten one after another. This person absolutely couldn't be left alive. Golden Crocodile Douluo's eyes flashed with killing intent, an enormous crocodile image appearing behind him as his sixth spirit ring instantly flashed. That enormous image actually turned substantial, lunging straight towards Tang San with a roar, and Golden Crocodile Douluo himself turned, the long tail swinging out, forcing all the Heaven Do Empire powers trying to save Tang San in retreat. Rank 98 spirit power really was too strong. Even Sword Douluo Chen Xin, largely exhausted, also couldn't pass his block. This time, even Tang San had a feeling he wouldn't be able to escape. He was powerless to defend. A rank 98 title Douluo's attack was beyond him in his present state. Just at this critical moment, suddenly, a roar exploded. Who dares harm my son? An incredibly enormous black light rose up from below Jelling Pass like a dark sun, using incomparably berserk power to meet the golden crocodile image. With an enormous explosion, the black light condensed without scattering, and the golden crocodile's head was blasted into fragments, suddenly exploding into countless specks of golden light, not one hitting Tang San. Even if Golden Crocodile Douluo had used a lot of his strength to block the Heaven Do Empire powers, the Golden Crocodile was still his sixth spirit ability, with the power of rank 98 spirit power. But it was smashed like this by someone's single strike, making even this rank 2 priest change expression, concentrating his attention on this person. The new arrival was dressed in plain clothes, tall, a head of short hair like steel needles, his eyes radiating power were as determined as an ancient evil god. His whole body bulged with muscle, and in his right hand was an incomparably enormous black giant hammer, with a head the size of a barrel, on which a golden pattern could be glimpsed, as well as a strange white pattern. This was no stranger, but once the Douluo Continent's youngest title Douluo, Tang San's father, possessing the highest title of the Clear Sky School, Clear Sky, Tang Hao. Even though only he alone blocked in front of Tang San, standing there Tang Hao was like a towering mountain, being protected behind that back. Tang San immediately felt a sense of unprecedented security. Dad, the sense of security from his father made Tang San unable to hold back his shout. Tang Hao seemed to have returned to his original severity, his face like iron carved with knife and chisel, his voice bold. Leave this to me. Leave this to me. All of you retreat first. Big brother, the inside of the walls is up to you. Fine. Howling Sky Douluo Tang Xiao's voice echoed just from behind Tang San. Tang Xiao's figure appeared, and together with him were 100 robust men equally wielding Clear Sky hammers, quickly cresting the wall and moving straight into Jelling Pass. At this critical moment, the Clear Sky School's reinforcements had finally arrived, and it was moreover led by the brothers Tang Xiao and Tang Hao. Now, a series of loud explosions came below the walls of Jelling Pass, countless dismembered body parts blasting out from the gates. The Heaven Do Imperial troops that had charged inside numbered at least 50,000, and the majority of them were heavy cavalry. But right now the gates seemed to explode, countless corpses gushing out along with miserable screams. Whether the new Heaven Do Emperor Shui Bang or Marshal Ji Long both changed expressions. The circumstances before them could only be explained by one thing, and that was that the army they had sent into Jelling Pass was already completely wiped out. Adding the troops from the previous siege, the total casualties had already surpassed 100,000. A deep regret filled Shui Bang's heart, regret that he didn't listen to Grandmaster and promptly retreat, and even sent even more soldiers to die on the field. Shui Bang's eyes reddened, roaring, "Sound the retreat! Imperial guards, follow us to break pursuit and screen the army's retreat. Your Majesty, you can't. It's all this old official's fault. Leave the reguard mission to this old official." Marshal Ji Long firmly grasped Shui Bang. How could he let the monarch rush into danger? Only, Shui Bang's words also roused the Heaven Do Imperial army's morale again. If even the Emperor disregarded life or death, what could the soldiers fear? Marshal Ji Long led the Imperial Guard to rush out. The gongs beat the retreat, and the Heaven Do army charging at the pass finally began to turn. But, unexpected for Marshal Ji Long, while the Heaven Do troops inside Jelling Pass had clearly been completely purged, the enemy still didn't sortie. Only the Tang army still guarded on the other side of the moat, holding the godly Juda crossbows, ready to screen their allies' retreat. Of course, it wasn't that the Spirit Empire army didn't want to take advantage of the momentum to attack. With 3 priests, as well as another 5,000 strong Spirit Master Legion, they basically had no fear of the Tang army's godly Juda crossbows. The godly Juda crossbow excelled at surprise raids, but when you were somewhat prepared, external weapons still couldn't compete with Spirit Masters. The reason they didn't sortie was because of the appearance of the Clear Sky School relief force. The Clear Sky School's people weren't numerous, adding in Clear Sky School Master Howling Sky Douluo Tang Xiao. There was altogether only 101 of them, but these 101 people still stalled the enemy. Tang Xiao was first to land on the battlefield inside the walls, his Clear Sky hammer with a size absolutely not inferior to Tang Hao swinging with full force, forcibly blocking the attacks of the 3 priests. And at the same time, 100 jet black lights shone simultaneously, and the Spirit Empire Spirit Masters charging furthest ahead were immediately baptized by the sect once known as the world's #1. The simultaneous attack of 100 Clear Sky hammers immediately halted their advance, and also gave the Heaven Do Imperial army time to withdraw. Up on the walls, Tang Hao slowly held the Clear Sky hammer horizontal in front of him, pointing it towards Golden Crocodile Douluo. "Was it you who harmed my son?" Golden Crocodile Douluo snorted coldly. "So what if it was? Clear Sky School. Humph humph. What a Clear Sky School. I didn't expect there would be day you'd stick your head outside your shell again. What creature, you'd be so impertinent with this old man. Even if Tang Chen was here, he'd respect me as a senior. Announce your name. This old man doesn't kill nameless juniors." In terms of seniority, Golden Crocodile Douluo really was a generation above Chen Dalu and Tang Chen's generation, and also the most senior power in the present Spirit Empire. Even Chen Dalu had to show him some respect. Having Tang Hao point the Clear Sky hammer at his nose like this, his heart was already burning with anger. Tang Hao gave a disdainful snort. "With ambition there is no seniority. Without it 100 years are lived in vain. You're not suited to mention my grandfather's name. Where's Chen Dalu? Call him out to fight. You aren't enough." Golden Crocodile Douluo's eyes shone with fury. Good. I'd like to see how much strength you have to back up your arrogance. This old man hasn't left Elder Palace in 50 years now. Today I'd like to see how much your generation is worth." Glaring golden light suddenly erupted from all over Golden Crocodile Douluo. Each of his scales stood up, his white hair instantly turning into keratin, enveloping his head. He leaned forward slightly, like a giant crocodile, his 9 spirit rings glittering. The last among them was unexpectedly also red, just like Tang Hao's spirit rings. Tang Hao laughed out loud. "Then come. I'll teach you what living 100 years in vain means. Little San, look closely. This is the true might of our Clear Sky School's Clear Sky Hammer."